thank you very much, and I appreciate that they still let me come back to things like this and get to participate. So yes, great launching pad, great company, great people, and I'm really privileged to be invited to come here and talk to everybody today. So as Craig said, Ken Piddington. I've done a whole bunch of things in the technology side. I'm going to talk to everybody today about the information technology side of this wonderful industry of oil and gas, not the operational technology side, and why the investments here are so important to operational efficiency, making our employees more effective, adding value to our customers, and ultimately increasing value for our shareholders. So let's jump in a little bit to this. So first, there's this wonderful thing called digital transformation. You've probably read about it, you've heard about it. Every company in every industry is talking about this and has been for years. What is it? It's really business transformation, changing how we do business and using digital as the tool, which means the technology behind it to really change and drive our business. The oil and gas industry, I think as you heard Godzilla said earlier, is somewhat resistant to change and is probably lagging quite a bit compared to other industries in this idea of doing this digital transformation. And I think it's a real opportunity for companies, and one that probably now has started to pick up pace a little bit. And why is that? Well, we can see we've all experienced and seen this crazy volatility in pricing in the crude world that's happened this year. We're recognizing our companies, things are tight, people are making budget cuts. We're working with very tight margins. And at the same time, as CEOs and leaders of our organizations, we're trying to figure out how to grow our business. And then you've added this COVID-19 global pandemic. And with that, you've really had I think companies have a need to accelerate those transformational efforts. We're trying to keep our people safe. We're figuring out how to do business in new ways. Our people are working all over the place, not working in our traditional offices. We're doing things with less people. How can we be more effective and more efficient? And technology has been a way that companies can do that. And I think that's what's driving an acceleration in that. What does that really mean in the oil and gas space? Well, I didn't always know either what that was really supposed to mean and why. And I had the privilege a number of years ago to attend a NASCAR race. And I was a guest of GoDaddy. So at the time when Danica Patrick was a driver, you know, I was not a race car fan, but to me it was cars driving around in a circle, right? Just an engine, a body, four wheels, and that was it. But what I got to see going into the pits, meeting Danica Patrick, meeting her pit crew and talking to them and seeing what goes on, it was all about technology. It wasn't just this person behind the wheel driving the car, making a lot of left turns, going in circles. There was a lot going on behind the scenes to monitor the wheels and the air pressure and the engine and the fuel consumption, the health of the driver, all of these things in real time to give the driver, to give the pit crew actionable insights to their business, to make what the effectiveness of that car, the chance of that car winning the race, a higher probability. And it was at that moment of seeing this car, which I thought was just a car. We all drive them. We all go around in circles, maybe not as fast and as they were doing, but we do the same thing. And I saw the value of technology, the way it was playing a different role in doing something that's been happening for years. You know, car racing's been going on for a very long time. I used to race on the beaches. My in-laws, my father-in-law used to race down some of the beaches in Texas with his car, his hot rod back in the 50s. He didn't have all that technology, but now here we were adding technology to this race car to do business differently. And it's something that was very traditional and something we were used to. So oil and gas the same way. We pull these hydrocarbons out of the ground. It goes through a refining process. We blend product. We deliver it downstream to our customers. It's oil. What's technology besides pulling it out of the ground? What's all this information technology have a role? And how can that actually help us do this better, more effectively, and more efficiently? And again, comparing it to the race car, I said, there's an opportunity here that we as an industry need to take advantage of. And again, we as an industry have been slow to change because, you know, it is tight margins. It is a very volatile space. And so we make our investments in buying that product. We make that investment in the operational side. And now I think there's more opportunity. The technology has advanced. People are seeing it. The need from a from a global standpoint and where we're trying to, how we're trying to operate is driving a need for doing more with the technology to make our businesses more effective and more efficient, improve our employees, add value-added services to our customers, and really streamline that process. And that's where I think there's a lot of opportunity. And today I'm going to talk about 10 technology trends that, in my mind, are really, really important ones organizations in this space need to think about. And I think as shareholders, investors of companies, you want to find those organizations that are looking to do these things to really help drive their business, improve that bottom line, and increase value to the shareholder. So what are these cool things? So one, I'm going to start with data intelligence, analytics, and big data. This isn't anything new. We've had data forever, but the ability to start to do the analysis, the predictive analysis, and really look at where have we been, what's happening right now, how can we analyze the data today to take action on. I mentioned actionable insights in that race car. We need to be able to do that today as well. And I think in almost every one of the trends I'm going to talk about, this concept of data intelligence, analytics, and big data comes back into play because no matter what we're doing, we somehow have to crunch the numbers. We have to look at that data, figure out and take action. And the better we can do that, the faster we can do that, the more advantage we may have over our competitors in operations, and also in figuring out where new opportunities are. Thinking about looking at on the upstream production side and being able to do the analysis of the data to determine where should we drill here, should we drill there, where's going to be the biggest opportunity. Looking at my overall supply chain, doing the analysis on that, and how do we move our product. Again, another opportunity. You're looking at our equipment and how do we monitor the performance of that equipment to make slight adjustments. Maybe it's into my blending process. It's to how much product is flowing through the pipeline. It's tweaking our refinery. It all comes down to the data and the intelligence and analytics that you're using for that. So this one's going to play a role in almost every other one of the trends that I'm going to talk about. And it's probably an item that companies could do the most with today with the least amount of investment. There's so many tools out there. It's very inexpensive to get going as long as you have an idea of the questions you want to ask and where you want to head with that. The second trend is blockchain. You may have all heard about this. This is actually a digital ledger. It's the underlying technology of Bitcoin. If anyone's an investor in Bitcoin, this is the technology behind that's tracking the ownership of your assets. It's been talked a lot in the oil and gas and where it could play in the different use cases. Actually, there was a consortium, some of the major oil companies about 2 years ago now, maybe 3, that got together and tried to use this as a way of managing a crude shipment from end to end, from the original seller all the way to whoever was purchasing at that refinery and all the third parties that got involved along the way, from the barging and inspection and so on, to prove that it could be work. It only works though if everybody's playing and getting agreement to that same platform. It doesn't work if it's just a couple of people. But I think there's a lot of other opportunities with blockchain to use that. You think about product coming out of the well site, the truck picks up and being able to track that and maybe take some of the manual efforts to monitor and track that inventory. We could use blockchain for. I think it's one that's talked about a lot. I think there's a lot of use cases. It is an expensive one to get engaged with. It does involve the entire industry or a big chunk of it to really make it work. So it hasn't gained as much traction in this industry, but it is one that you hear a lot about. It's gained a lot more traction in the financial services, but I do think you're going to see this coming about more and more. You'll hear about blockchain as an opportunity. And then next is any device, anywhere. And we've had this for a while. I think about my iPhone or my tablet or laptops and what other device we want to transact business on and use to engage with our customers. But it's probably elevated now with the pandemic. One, our employees are all working from all over the place, so the need to be able to use different devices is really critical. But then if you think about safety, we got to think about safety in the field, whether we're out at a well site, and actually we're on the drilling rig out in the Gulf, we're working and loading rail cars, we're working in the refinery. The idea of safety is critically important. So the wearables, so maybe not our watch here, but an iWatch or another type of device to help monitor where my employees are. Maybe you look at it from a pandemic perspective, and I've got my employees coming back, and how do I do contact tracing and being able to track where people are? This idea that as an organization, we have to be able to manage and support any device, anywhere to do our business on, is critically important. And again, I think with the pandemic and the idea from a safety perspective there, as we want to get people back to work, it becomes even more important. You even add the Google glasses to that, and I'll talk about where there's an opportunity there as well, particularly as you think about maintenance and field services and being able to leverage and use that to help you along the way. Next is virtual and augmented reality. This is not the games that your kids are playing, because my son is a freshman in college and he's like, Dad, I got to get the new Oculus something or other for whatever game. I'm like, great, whatever. You've got to figure out your own money to buy that. I'm not spending money on this, because I couldn't see the real value to it. And it took a while for me to see where this could really come and play from an industry perspective. So in addition to those things that Craig read off about my experience in industry, I also sit on the board of a number of different nonprofits, particularly here in Houston. My kids do musical theater. So I've been on the theater board for something called Hits Theater. I chair the technology committee for Stages Theater. If anyone's been to Stages, new building in town here, I led the technology for that. While we were doing the building of that, the engineering firm brought us in. We got to use virtual reality to see our theater. To actually walk through the theater, sit in different seats, see the building, look at it from the stage, from the actor's perspective, sit in different seats from an audience, and really see, did we design this right? Where do we need to shift things around? And it was at that moment that I said, wow, I could see how this can come into play in our oil and gas side. What I could do to help train people in a more safe way about working in the refinery, or what they need to do even in the drilling aspects, and being able to virtually take a 360 view instead of a 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional even, and see what's going on there. And I really saw the value add that this could happen, could be used for, to do virtual reality, where before I thought of it as a game because my kids wanted to put the cool goggles on and play that way. And then I will admit there's some really cool gaming things. We got to go see the theater as we were scrolling through the programs they had. I passed the baseball stadium in this virtual world that I was in. And then at the end, I said, hey, well, what was that? And he goes, oh, that's the new Marlins stadium. We were the engineers on that. Do you want to see it when we're done? Sure, I'm a baseball fan. So I got to go in and sit in different seats in the Marlins stadium. And then they had a home run derby game. So we got to play home run derby virtually. So you're standing there batting with the fake pitch coming at you and seeing if you could hit a home run. I did hit a few out. Probably couldn't do that for real. But it was really interesting to see how this thing that really drove from a gaming perspective has now become part of a true business opportunity, particularly as you think about the engineering. So you think oil and gas, what goes on in the production side, and the refining side, and the distribution. I really do think this has got a space or a place for it to go. And then you add to it augmented reality, and I see that as a big part for field services. If I got to go out there and I've got to repair some valve on a pipe, if I could wear my Google glasses, my or whatever other glasses, any device anywhere, and be able to pull up the blueprints, the plans, the instructions right there about that valve, I can be more efficient and effective in fixing that, and cost less for the company in order to do that. So I think this virtual and augmented reality really have a big place, and they're still lagging behind in what we're doing, but there are some companies out there that have actually taken this in this industry pretty far, but they're few and far between. But I do see this as one that's going to come up bigger here soon, especially since the technology is getting less and less expensive. When my teenage kid can afford to go get the new Oculus, you know that we as energy companies can do it as well. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, we might even add deep learning to this. And this is the, kind of like we go back to, 2010, A Space Odyssey, and talking to Hal and going through that. This is the realization of true artificial intelligence. Being able to correlate data and look at things faster than a human mind can do, and to be able to really see things and take action upon those through artificial intelligence. Be able to correlate large chunks of data that we couldn't sift through as a normal human fast enough to that the technology is able to do. Maybe it's being used to monitor some of our drilling equipment, and monitoring the health of that equipment and looking at what healthy equipment looks like, and monitoring for cycle times or something going wrong, so we can stop it and take action before it breaks, costing us a lot of money. We can be more proactive in that maintenance. Is a great use case for how we can apply artificial intelligence and machine learning. But you're hearing about it, it's a big buzz. It's actually a foundational component to a number of other things that I'm going to talk about as well, that the concept of artificial intelligence or machine learning are being used for. You're probably actually all experiencing it in some way, shape, or form today in a number of things. I know I have a new car, and it has these it has its own little brain and artificial intelligence in it based on my driving habits and even what I listen to on the radio, or who I call on the phone, or which locations I go to, and starts making suggestions on other things that I'm going to like. I mean, that's what this is. It's an artificial correlating a bunch of data, taking a bunch of data, and then finding suggestions or giving you opportunity to take some action upon those. And I think you're going to see more and more of this in the organizations today. And I think they can really drive a lot of value, especially we think about the tighter market. Companies, unfortunately, as we heard earlier about some bankruptcies, we've had layoffs. How do you do more with less? These are tools that are going to allow us to do that. And then there's conversational platforms and natural language processing. I'm willing to bet that you're all using these things today. In some cases, you don't realize it, and you actually think you're speaking to a human. There's a number of places you go to a website, a little chat box pops up. Hey, talk to Sally about whatever. Sally's a robot. She's a conversational platform it's not usually a real person behind it. Answering some basic questions, or asking some basic questions, getting those answers, and then ultimately taking you to the right piece of information online, or getting you to a real human based on where you're going. Or anyone have an Alexa, or Amazon Echo, or Google Home, or talks? I don't want to say it too loud because she'll pop on somebody's phone here. Siri will pop on. We're doing that today. We have that expectation at home. I know we've got that at my house. We actually use it as an intercom, and my daughter goes around like, "Hey Alexa, what's the weather? Hey Alexa, play me a song. Hey, what's going on here and there?" We're using these things at home today all the time. They're starting to make their way into the enterprise and using those as an organization, both for the conversation. How do we engage our customers differently? If we can provide self-service to our customers for information, hey, could you get me my invoice? What's my statement? Or how much inventory do I have? And for our customers to do it, but you can also, for our employees, as we think about the concept of the digital workplace, how can we change the way our people work? Why do I have to go hunt and peck for the report? Why can't I just say, show me the inventory at this location? What was my P&L last month? Why can't I just talk to my data and get that? And that's what's happening today. And it's actually really low cost way of doing things. Or maybe I'm going to execute a trade. Buy me 100 lots of crude at this. I can just talk to it and let that execute that in my own internal transactional systems and place that order with the market. These are things you're going to see a whole lot more. And this is just artificial intelligence that we talked about a minute ago, that's sitting behind it, that's creating this. It's taking natural voice, applying it with a whole set of rules to take action upon that until it can't anymore. Then has to divert you to a real human, or you get the one from Alexa. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with that right now, or I don't know this is what I found on the web that Siri will answer for you. But these are things that are real, and I think things that you're going to see more and more in the enterprise. And some companies are taking real advantage of this today. I think it changes the way people do work. And if you think about tough times that we've had, my organization, we laid off 40+% of our workforce. So how do you retain and keep the people excited that are working? You got to change the way you're doing business. And this is an area that I think is going to really take off more for more and more companies. As I said, it relates to that digital transformation at the beginning, and I break that down into what do we do to engage our customers? What do we do to operate differently? And third, how do we create the digital workspace? How do we work differently? So an interesting one, and we're probably all doing it in some capacity today. And then there's robotic process automation. Again, another one that has the underlying of that artificial intelligence. This is not true robots, not like, remember the old movie Lost in Space with the robot coming around, or I forgot the robot's name from the Jetsons who did all the house cleaning, or your Roomba that you have going around. But this is being able to take processes that a normal person would be doing in many cases, and having the robot do it. You teach it how to go ahead and perform that function. We're thinking about working with a lot less people. How do we do all that data entry that needs to go on if we're moving unit trains of crude oil and managing all those tickets or tons and tons of truckloads that are going through? A lot of companies today are, instead of adding more people, we're using robotic process automation to take that data, push it into the systems we need without having the human intervention, and teach it what to do when there's gaps in that data. The other side of it is being able to take action when data changes. So if I have a change in state, my inventory, I want to keep at a particular level, and we see the inventory, we're monitoring our inventory, we see it go below a certain, we can take action, automatically place an order. That's what I used to do. I had gas stations previously, and we would have automatic ordering based on inventory levels and contractual agreements, and we used robotic process automation to help drive that, so we didn't have a person that had to sit there and say, oh yeah, inventory went below 25%, go call our supplier to deliver it. We could do that automatically based on a bunch of rules. But anytime that data changes, you can take action. It could be even related to processing for payment. A lot of different things that can happen there. So you end up with what's called supervised and unsupervised robotic process automation, where you can let it run in the background, or you can kick it off and drive it yourself, as opposed to the person typing in a lot of data. Again, another one similar to the analytics side that companies can do very inexpensively and gain a lot of value. And I think today, with working with less people, trying to do more, this is a real big win for companies, that they can get to be more efficient at a very low cost, and one I think people should invest in more sooner than maybe some of these others. And then industrial Internet of Things. We've heard of the Internet of Things. IoT would turn it for this industry into the industrial Internet of Things. There's a lot of aspects that go on here in the sensors that go on in our equipment, to monitoring inventory levels, to monitoring performance of a drill, to tracking our rail cars, to working and monitoring all sorts of things through the pipes that are going on in our refinery. Lots and lots and lots of different use cases that you can have with this industrial Internet of Things. The key then afterwards is, what do I do with it? And that's where that one I mentioned in the beginning about analytics, data intelligence, all comes into play. I'm collecting all this data, big data. What do we do with it? And that's where that analysis comes in. That's where we want to be able to create actionable insights, be able to do something there. That robotic process automation comes in, the artificial intelligence comes in. This is the mechanism for data collection. And many of the companies out there have been doing this for years. We've been collecting data. Lots of things are censored, but we haven't been doing anything with the data. And that's the opportunity to really start taking advantage of this, particularly as we think about the high cost of maintenance around this equipment. We can find ways to monitor, be proactive in the maintenance, thus reducing downtime. It's a lot of money that we're saving and helping us be more profitable. I think there's a real opportunity there, and I think one that companies, it sounds good, but aren't fully taking advantage of this concept of the Internet of Things. And I think, again, real opportunity there to do something with. In fact, we're starting more of it in company, and we have 30 sand mines and processing plants. Half of those do frac sand, and we're adding more of the sensors to our heavy equipment at the mining side to monitor what our trucks are doing, number of loads back and forth, the performance of the engines, cycle time, both an idle time, total cycle time of the engine, but how much time they're idling, looking at the performance of our employees, monitoring those from maintenance perspective, really trying to be as efficient as we possibly can, adding those sensors to conveyor belts that are moving sand, to the performance of the dryers that are drying the sand as it goes through the cleaning process, really trying to be more efficient. Then you can add to that, tied to that any device anywhere, the idea of the wearables and monitoring our employees, and again, back to the safety. So we're collecting data from our employees' actions as well, and all fits into this idea of the industrial Internet of Things. And then not last year, but there's this thing called cloud. It's not the clouds outside. You see it advertised on TV all the time. If you watch any Microsoft commercial, they're like, the magic of the cloud, the cloud, the cloud, the cloud. It doesn't work as simply as that, but it is the concept of basically somebody else's computer somewhere else, You could use Microsoft's Azure, you can use Amazon's web services, there's Google Cloud, there's a ton of other ones, there's your own private cloud, but it's this idea that everything isn't now no longer confined to a data center in my office that enables us to do all these other things that I was talking about. Without it, we really wouldn't be able to do the Internet of Things and collect all that data and as easily. We wouldn't be doing some of that data analytics and producing some of these things and adding that compute power as quickly as possible. So much of it is living in this cloud world, and you're seeing companies go with a cloud-first strategy, where we're going to look at our systems that we're doing and putting them in the cloud before we're looking to build more things on premise in our very expensive data centers. Let's put it on someone else's computer and infrastructure and use it from there to save us money, to add scalability, let us ramp up and ramp down as we need to. But it is the big foundation to all of these things that we're talking about. And then the last trend is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is not new. We've been talking about it forever. And as an industry, we are far behind in what we do in cybersecurity compared to a lot of other industries, particularly because we've got so much infrastructure that's been out there for a really long time, where security wasn't maybe much of a focus as it is today. The hackers weren't as sophisticated as they are today. So security used to be a secondary thought. And then it's hard to replace because we can't afford to take these systems down and stop production and stop operations. So we leave a lot of old things out there. I actually had a plant that still was running something on Windows 95 here today. Windows 95 hasn't been made and supported by Microsoft in many, many, many years. We couldn't afford to take it down. So we had to build all this stuff around it in order to provide extra levels of security. But I think today, with all that it's getting in the news about breaches that are happening, ransomware, your industrial networks are a weak link into the corporate network or into whatever's going. We could disrupt operations. If I could shut down a pipeline or impact a refinery, that has big downstream financial impacts. So companies are taking cybersecurity in this industry a whole lot more seriously than they ever were before. There are a number of cybersecurity companies that are building technology specifically for the industrial side to go on. They're adding a lot of the things we talked about already, from artificial intelligence and automation and the analytics into that to look for anomalies in the behavior of your people or behavior of the equipment that's working, in case some bad actor has gotten access to it and makes a change to a setting and changes the flow in a pipeline. It's happening. The electrical grid utility stuff is actually weaker from a security perspective than the oil and gas stuff. So it's a big area where I think people are seeing and starting to make a greater investment in. And then you got to think about it as a company. Do you want to be on the front page for some sort of data breach that loses some of your customer information, or you get a ransomware issue and you got to spend a bunch of money to try and resolve that? I mean, I don't know if anyone saw the article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday about a bunch of the school districts during that getting hit with ransomware because they're easy targets. Smaller technology staffs, student data, and they're going after them. And it's happened a lot. It was a big article, number of different little local school districts here in Texas that have been hit recently. But it's happening all over the country, and it's happening to companies in the oil and gas industry as well. And I think as an investor in any company, you don't want to see a company you're invested in show up on the front page of the Wall Street Journal because they had an issue. So from a security perspective, so you're seeing more and more investments in this area, and I think it's an opportunity for companies to continue to protect their investment, maintain their operations, and protect their brand. And it's critically important. Probably today more so than ever. So all those trends are great. And what does that really mean here in the oil and gas space? And how does it make it work? Well, data is the critical element for all of that. There was nothing that I mentioned in any of those 10 that didn't rely on good data. If I don't manage my data well and have a way of moving that data around at the speed our organization needs to, ensuring the quality and the integrity of that data, all the rest of the investment and all that cool technology is pointless. We've got to look at that data. We've had lots of data. We've had lots of data for years. It probably lives in the various spreadsheets over here and over there. We've got to start thinking about a unified data strategy and plan to enable all this technology. And without it, you're going to struggle with being successful in all those different platforms that we were talking about, all those different technology trends, from the analytics side to the RPA to the artificial intelligence, the conversational platforms, the industrial Internet of Things. Those are all data driven, and critically important that we have a data strategy. And most companies think about data secondary. Yeah, I got it. It's in this spreadsheet. It's in here. We have duplications of data. And then we start doing that analytics of no one can trust it because we've got two different versions of the truth. The more we plan and think about that, the better off we'll be. And then maybe it's another opportunity to drive an additional revenue stream. Think about all the data that companies in this industry are collecting. What could we do with it? What insights could we gain? How could we use that with our customers? What other services could we add because of the unique insights that we have? How can we monetize the data that we have? I think it's a great opportunity that companies aren't fully taking advantage of. And if they looked inside, under the covers of what they have in the data side, they'd probably find some really unique opportunities that they could do with it. But at a minimum, we've got to manage the data well to enable all these technologies. But all this cool stuff that I talk about for technology really doesn't matter, because technology doesn't provide value to the business. Technology's value comes from doing business differently because technology made it possible. And as you heard in Godzill's presentation, again, resistant to change, opportunity for improvement. This is where technology, the information technology, comes into play here. I think it's really the time to do business differently in this industry, and technology can make that possible. But we've got to figure out what it is we want. What outcomes are we trying to get to? And then leverage technology, which is less expensive today and easier to put into place and easier to try and experiment with today, more so than it ever was before, with a smaller investment and big returns. That again, it's a real opportunity. So that's why I love this quote. It's actually from George Westerman. He's a professor at MIT and wrote a book about digital innovation. That, it really resonates with me. And when I tell my teams this, they sometimes give me a little pushback because they're, born and raised technologists. What do you mean technology doesn't provide value to the business? Yes, it does. And then they hate it even more when I say nobody cares about technology. We only care about the outcomes. I said, you got to put your business hat on, not just your technologist hat, and understand how it plays a role in truly making the company's cash register work. So if anyone's looking for some more information on kind of these trends and thinking about where things are headed, these are two great books that I found that really tell a good story. First, the story of technology, how we got here and what the future holds. Just really good insights into what's going on out there and where there's some opportunities. But the inevitable, understanding the 12 technological forces that were going to shape our future, really dives into a lot of the trends I just mentioned, goes into where they play, not just in oil and gas, but in a number of other industries, and talk about new jobs and opportunities that are going to come about. And many already are related to it. So again, if you're looking for something else to read, some good insights, I highly recommend both of these books. With that, I'll open it up to some questions. So thank you very much for your time.
Well, you mentioned that the oil and gas industry lag in these type of advancements, and God's company, you're already ahead on this. But do you see these, for example, this COVID, unfortunate situation? Is this where they catch up, or are they still different? Is it still they don't have the money to invest on this, or do you think this is the time where they're going to catch up?
I hope they catch up. I'm actually seeing it accelerate the trend. I think when the COVID stuff first happened, everyone put the brakes on a lot of things. And so we started to, even if we were starting to make progress, we stopped. But then as people kind of got used to the new, let's work from home and figuring out what I hate the phrase, our new normal was going to be, things started to realize we've got to start doing some things differently. And now, more than ever, we've got to take advantage of this technology and we're being disrupted, but how can we use technology to continue to disrupt in a positive way? So maybe the programs or the projects we were doing might have changed because we're seeing things differently, and it's actually accelerating some spend. It is at my organization. As I said, we made a lot of cuts. We reduced significant staff. We put projects on hold, and now we've come back and said, "Ooh, we need to take advantage of this opportunity." A number of our competitors filed for Chapter 11. What can we do to get some of their customers? What can we do to start to to spread the gap and differentiate ourselves. So in one area for ours on the logistics side, we started making heavier investments in the technology that fit within the artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, and the IoT side. We're doing location services with our mobile application for our drivers. We're doing driver intelligence to optimize routes that the trucks are going on and try to schedule our drivers more efficiently. And it's already having a big impact in the bottom line of how well we're doing in that, where it's a time to be smarter about it. So I do think for companies that are forward thinking and have leadership that is going, how can we leverage technology to give us a competitive advantage? They're going to start to get back on par with other industries. And there are some that are definitely far ahead of others. It's not every company in the industry, but as a whole, the oil and gas industry, I think, has been behind the rest of the industry. We're certainly not a leader, not even a fast follower. We're certainly a laggard in technology as a whole, catching up. I know Oxy is a good one for a lot of this technology, particularly for their field services. They use the glasses. They do a lot with the augmented reality for things that they're doing there, and they do a lot with the wearables for safety. So they've been ahead of the game, but it's not the case for everybody.
So regarding small businesses, small schools, I teach at a small school right now. And what would you say for seniors, junior seniors going, in the cybersecurity realm? What would you focus on the most?
I have one of those. He just graduated from high school, and that was all STEM focused, and he's a freshman doing cybersecurity now, and a lot came from what he learned in high school. I think it's a part for the high school kids as they think about this, to be well-rounded, especially if you're thinking about the security stuff. You gotta understand so many different aspects of it in order to do it. I mean, I touched on 10 technology trends. So make it 9, take the cybersecurity out of it. Every one of those has security implications depending on what you're doing here. So the more well-rounded you can be, I think it's really, really good. Easy ways for the kids today to do some things, especially at school, low cost, get involved in the data and analytics, robotic process automation, and maybe some of the artificial intelligence. They're easy ones. They're opportunities to experiment with those, low cost or free, that a Microsoft or Amazon are making available to education for the students to go ahead and do. I know my son had those opportunities to go ahead and experiment. You got to go search some of those out, but they're there for you. So, and then lastly, I'd say add as much programming as you can, because learning to do that. So that's great. Very good. Thank you for that question.
So when energy got really expensive, $100 a barrel, et cetera, there was a dynamic of every company is now an energy company. Do you believe every company is now a technology company? And do you think the execs you speak with feel that way, or do they fight it?
50-50. I think they are more seeing, if they don't say technology company, a lot are saying data company, because they can see the opportunity to how they use that data internally to really drive some competitive differentiation, or maybe even create new opportunity. And there's others who, we've been doing this way for forever, so we're not. They don't see it as the technology side or the data side. No, I've dealt with that with my company today. We're a 120-year-old sand company, and it's sand. We've been doing this way for a long time. He'll say that in one time, and then the other side he'll go back to but we do have to look at things differently, and I think the pandemic has actually accelerated our thinking in that as well. And I think companies that take greater advantage of that technology and start to think a little bit differently, and how can we do business differently, are going to find that shift in mindset will pay big dividends in the end.
One more, I'm going to pick your brain. Certifications. Which certification would you recommend in the augmented reality and the robotics? Just cybersecurity, or what would you recommend?
I don't know specifically any certifications in the augmented reality or robotic process, other than maybe some certifications from a vendor themselves that you got the training in their stuff. There's in the RPA world, there's companies called UiPath and Blue Prism and Automation Anywhere, which would be ones to look at if they have their own. Anything you do in this cybersecurity one, yes, go for it. In hitting that, we're so cloud driven today that Microsoft then do offer certifications in their platforms. That'd be another good place to go.
Thank you so much,
You're
Ken.
welcome. Thank you.